normal design. So, and then I had a friend, a close friend, who started a company 3 years ago, and his company has been doing really, really great. And it's like a Swedish version of Airbnb for companies. So up to this point, they have been using willpower and Excel and phone calls to get their clients together, to get their matches. But they are in desperate need now for technical solutions. So right now I'm doing the first real full stack job, and I wouldn't call it real full stack because I'm using a serverless backend on Supabase that uses a Postgres database. And so the first step is just going to be so at least they don't need to get mails and put all the stuff in Excel themselves. So it's going to go straight to the database, and then it's just going to be like a little bit better, more beautiful homepage for them with this a little admin app that can do some CRUD functionality to the database. But the thing is that they are going to need a really big, advanced solution. So as soon as I'm done with this, there's going to be like a decision time, and maybe this could be possible to merge somehow with this boot camp, so that people that are doing great and really want to might get an opportunity to do some work, and but nothing is set in stone yet, so it's just on like on the horizon for now. But maybe if everything works out, maybe there could be. So for me, of course, doing this boot camp is going to be all about um, because what I don't know right now, I don't know Typescript. I've been watching like some tutorials and stuff, but I have not been writing anything in Typescript. So uh, I'm gonna be like a week from now, when I'm done with this first version, I'm gonna be putting all my brain cells to learning Typescript. So
Great. Okay. Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity to find kind of this win-win where we have the developers that want to learn TypeScript and they want to apply it on a real topic. And oh, am I still there? Hey guys, I just had a.
we lost you.
Hey, I'm back.
We
I'm
lost
back.
the chief.
Just a short internet disconnection. I don't know why, but okay. I was just saying, yeah, I'm really happy to find to find some kind of win-wins here, where of course the students are learning, and there's also companies that can benefit from that, and because the companies can have some real products that they want to have made, but the students can learn to apply things they learn on a real product immediately after they are learning it, you know, and that's kind of win-win. So I think that's cool. Anyway, what I wanted to really ask you guys is, what do you want to get out of this bootcamp? Is there anything that you want to build in the coming 3 months? Do you have any ideas about some platforms, some ideas for an app, maybe a new kind of dating app, or a new marketplace of some sort? What do you have for ideas?
Yeah. Yeah, from my side, I think we can build like a digital boarding app for the like a country like Nepal. You know, like we don't have like a digital boarding app over here,
What do
so
you mean,
it
a
won't be.
boarding app?
Yeah, digital boarding app.
What's
Yeah,
that?
like
Boating?
election voting.
Oh,
Yeah,
voting. Ah, digital
yeah.
voting. Okay, nice. Yeah.
Because like the people are in different countries. You know, like
Hmm.
not only in Nepal, the people people lives in different countries. Even many places,
Hmm.
the people migrate from one country to
Yes.
another. So they have the rights to just put
Hmm.
their possible parties. So I
Yeah.
was interested in this.
That's a very interesting idea. I think even in the Netherlands, we don't even have this type of app. And I think the reason is that a lot of, especially older people, are afraid that it's gonna be hacked, you know, and that
Yeah,
the
yeah,
votes will be unfair. So they're
yeah.
afraid of that. But I think it's a very good idea. And if you can
If
somehow
we
make
have,
it extremely secure and very
yeah,
transparent, of course, maybe then it's possible to really get it through, you know? So yeah, that's an amazing idea.
yeah, yeah, the apps will be transparent and cost because
Yeah,
yeah, maybe like if we have a good security, then we can
yeah.
do that. Yeah,
Maybe it can be very secure and then you can make it open source so that people can see whether or not the votes are being done in the correct way, you know? That there's no strange things happening. And then maybe it will
yeah,
be easier for people to trust it, you know?
yeah, yeah, true.
That's cool. That's amazing. Okay. Um, so, Dinesh, I don't know if you have a quiet enough area to speak, but can you share something? Hello, Dinesh? Okay, maybe Miora first.
Yes, I actually have two websites in mind. One is from a church. It's not very simple. Just information about the church and
Mm-hmm.
maybe some pictures
Mm-hmm.
and maybe some news also.
Mm-hmm.
That's very simple. But the other one is meant to be it's quite complicated. I actually already hired a few developers to make it for me, but none of them are able to. And then they're frustrated and decided to learn to code myself so I
Mm-hmm.
can do it. And
And what is it about?
it's about tourism in Madagascar, listing small hotels in remote areas where people, because people want to travel, but they're afraid not to know where to stay if they arrive in an
Uh huh.
unknown
And
place.
so is it kind of an Airbnb?
Sort of, yes, but it's not just for hotels, it's also for like places you can rent,
Mm-hmm.
like for a meeting, for example, or for
Ah,
co-working.
okay.
And
Nice.
also where normal people, I mean, individuals can also register
Mm-hmm.
if they have something to offer. Like I can bake, for example, and I want to, if someone who is organizing his wedding is looking for a baker, then
Mm-hmm.
you can find me on that
Yeah.
website. So
Okay.
it's something like that.
That's interesting. Cool. So it's all kinds of different services that you can connect people with on this platform. And that's exactly the kind of thing that I'm looking for to help you guys with some real platform. Because a simple website, like a website for a church, it will be quite easy relatively compared to, of course, this kind of platform that's really a full stack application. Because if you just want to build a static website, you just need Next.js or React and you're done. But if you really want to make some platform where people can do things and interact with each other, you know, then you really need a full stack. So that's why we are doing this course. Okay, cool. And maybe Bruna, are you in an environment you can speak or not? Or Dinesh again, are you there? Hmm. Okay, well, it doesn't matter. We can just talk about your stuff then another time. Um, so then I think this is the. Oh, let me share my screen again. By the way, I'm just checking, but I believe that when I start sharing my screen, somehow the video recording stopped. but I think now it's still going, so it should be fine. Okay, so I think that's the second part that we wanted to talk about. Now we know a little bit about kind of your goals, and that's great. So I think the first step for achieving these type of goals, where you have you want to make a full stack app in a short period of time, you have like 3 months, maybe you have more time, of course, but of course the goal in this bootcamp is to learn full stack development, at least the basis of it, within 3 months. So I think the best way to do that is by starting with TypeScript, basic TypeScript, and a little bit of backend as well, because most people already know a little bit of front end, so that's not something I'm gonna cover a lot. I think there's also a lot of different tutorials available already on that topic, so I will mostly focus on full stack and the backend in this course. So it would be also advisable, if you don't feel comfortable enough with front end yet, that you pick up some additional course on the side, like some tutorial series or some course on Udemy or whatever, to help you with kind of facing the front, the front end, where you can build the user interface of the full stack application that you're building. So last week I also made kind of a schedule for the coming weeks. So this is we are now in week 2, and we have kind of talked a little bit about the plan and your goal. And yeah, maybe next week we can have some more people talk about that, because we only have a couple people that told about their goals now. But now we can start with the third week, and we can just I will start with some showing you some basic TypeScript, really the basics, and I will make some functions and just do some stuff and answer all your questions. So this is we are now with less people than last time. So I think now it's possible to go a bit slower, and you can ask more questions. So whenever you don't fully understand something, just stop me, and then you can ask whatever you want about that topic. And then I think by the rest of the coming week, you should also practice a lot with TypeScript, and kind of making functions in TypeScript that have full type safety. Okay, so now, let me just go quickly through the schedule. After that, we're gonna do some backend, and maybe even this week I will already show you a little bit of Node. And then we go to the front end, and we put everything together. And then the idea is that I'm guiding you through making your own full stack application. So hopefully we have you all have enough hours to really go that quick, because it's only 12 weeks. So yeah, hopefully that will work. Otherwise, yeah, maybe not, and maybe we'll find something else, but we'll see. So yeah, basic TypeScript. So, okay. So today I have been working on some database. This one, and I want to show you that, because I think this covers a lot of information about what TypeScript can do for you. So here we have a TypeScript file. So instead of JavaScript, the TypeScript file starts with TS. So not JS, but TS. So as you can see, this file that we see here is inside of a package called SDKDB, which is the development kit for the database, I call it. And it has a source folder and a build folder. That's the most important you need to know. And it has the node modules. So you need to know that in the source folder, that's where your code goes, the TypeScript files that you are writing. In the build folder, that's where the compiled JavaScript goes. But you don't have to do that yourself. So whenever I go to this folder, I can just run the command that you see here, build. And then, so I do that with yarn build. I can also do npm run build, that's the same, but I always use yarn. So whenever I run that, it will call the TSC command that you can see here, the TypeScript compiler, and it will compile my source code into build JavaScript code. See? So whenever I remove this folder, I just command backspace and it's gone. Doesn't matter, I don't have to write that because I can just run this command and it's back. See? So there it is again. So this is not a problem if you lose your build folder, you can just create it again. And as you can see, this code is very hard to read, but this is kind of compiled JavaScript code. So this is JavaScript, this is kind of the old-fashioned JavaScript, and this is how it looks in TypeScript. So in TypeScript, for example, you have import, but then in JavaScript, they're calling exports dot, and they call import, instead of import, they do require. So it's kind of similar, but they have a different syntax. Also, they don't have any types here, so it's completely type unsafe. But in TypeScript, you would have a type here, see? So you would say some stuff about what these things do. Okay, so so I have prepared this thing for you. So here, in this DB package, I have a source and I have some tests. I've written that today, and I think it will be useful to play with this today and maybe show you guys some types and what you can do with it. So this is the main type of the database. It's a type called database models, DB models, and it's an object type because it starts with this curly brace. And then you have all these things here, and then the object type ends. See? So actually, I have also written the test database, which is a bit smaller and easier to see. So I'm going to show you that now, because that's one file with all the types. So here we have it, the test models. And as you can see here, the test database is created with the function createDB and the generic, which is kind of a type variable, into the function test models. So this is a type that you give to the function in order to let the TypeScript know what the type interface is that you want to use. Besides that, this function is calling, has one variable here, and that's this big object. See? So if I remove it, I can see that the first parameter here in this function is the dbconfig. So I could just do it like this to make it easier to read for you. Const dbconfig equals that. So that's the stuff that was inside there first. Actually, it doesn't work like this because the type interface is incorrect. But now it gives a red line because it says something is not a string, it should be something like this. That's something you get a lot with TypeScript. Sometimes it's handy to have TypeScript, sometimes you need to do some extra stuff. But in the end, it will help you a lot. The easy way to solve this is to just make sure that you are calling it like this. So you give the type, you give this type to the variable, see? And now the red line is gone. So now you make sure that TypeScript knows what the type interface is of this variable. So with the small letter, dbconfig small letter d, that's a variable. And whenever you want to make a type interface, you always start with a capital letter. Type interfaces are always with a capital letter. Variables will always start with a small letter. That's actually, I don't know if you already knew that, but there's a couple of different kind of casing styles. You have this. These are the casing styles that are available. So you have camel case. That's like a small letter first, and then you start with every new word with a capital. You have Pascal case. You start with a capital, and every new word is a capital. Then you have uppercase, and you have lowercase, but you also have kebab case, So that's every different word, doesn't have a space in between, but it has a dash. And then you have snake case. So you can actually, the only real cases that we are using in this course are 3: kebab case, camel case, and Pascal case. So you don't really need these cases, and there are a couple more, by the way, but these are the most important. So this one, Pascal case, you use for types and interfaces. Camel case, you can use that for variable names and functions. And kebab case you can use for file names, endpoints, because it has to be a URL, paths. So as you can see here, I use a lot of kebab case in the file names, because file systems, they prefer not to have too many capitalization, because then you get some errors across different operating systems. So it's easier to do that. And also with URLs, you get kebab cases often easier, because that's better support by most browsers. So this is kind of the convention, where you have kebab case, camel case for functions and variables, and Pascal case for types and interfaces. And also, by the way, components. React components. So whenever you make a React component, like button, the HTML tag is something like this, but the React component starts with a capital letter. So that's also a class, because a React component, they started with a class-based component, and they started, because of that reason, with a capital. So types, interfaces, classes, and components. But actually, by the way, we're not going to cover classes at all in this course. Classes, I think, it's great if you want to learn object-oriented programming, but it's not important for this course. And for full-stack apps, you don't really need it. You can use it, it can be helpful, but my style is that I don't use any classes in my whole code. My whole code base, there's no classes. You cannot find any classes. So, yeah, this is kind of important to remember as well. What else? Okay, so here we have the test database. So as you can see, oh, there's someone here. Hey Max, welcome. I'm just continuing. I already started, so I'll just continue with the material. The type interface test model, as you can see here, is a type interface that collects all the different models that we want in the database. So as you can see, it's an object type, but I will now show you some other types that you can have, okay? So if I want to create, for example, a type of any value, like a constant, is successful, and I say it's true, then I guess you can probably already know this, because in JavaScript you have it as well, true and false. That's a Boolean. So you can see it here. If you hover over the variable, you see that this is true. But you can give it the type interface Boolean. And normally this is done automatically, because the Typescript compiler has a very good inference. But so you don't need to declare this normally. But it's a good practice to start with declaring everything, because then you will learn it more quickly, and you will also see the red lines more clearly. So the red lines whenever you make a mistake. So the other thing is like maybe a string. So this is the other type that is very important in TypeScript. And then you have the number, of course. And then, of course, we have the any other primitives here? Well, we have numbers, maybe, which is a number array. And an array you indicate with this, and you can say like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this is a collection of multiple numbers. But so every time that you see this, it means it's an array. You can also write it like this, by the way, but I prefer to just do it always with these brackets. But yeah, you can choose whatever you want. But yeah, that's the array. You can also do string array. And as you can see, now it's not correct anymore because these are not strings. A string will always have quotes. So now it's an array of strings. See? So here you see the red line, and if you hover over that, you can find the error in VS Code. Type number is not assignable to type string. So that's a mistake. So now we fixed it. Now it's an array of strings. Of course, we can put everything in the array. And then the last thing is like an object. Whenever, by the way, you see this, is like first you have the constant. It means you start with a statement, a variable or a function. You give the function a name, and then you do this column, and then you indicate the type interface. Then you say the equal sign, and then whatever the value is. So first you have the type, then you have the value. So now we want to maybe have a person. So we have a name for the person. The name is a string, but we also want their age, for example. So as you can see, this is an object. It collects multiple parameters for one variable. As you can see, there's a red line here, because why is that? There's two things that's saying here. The first one is that it's declared, but it's never read, but that's not really an error. But the thing is that the value that we give to this constant is missing properties from the type. So it's not complete. So I can easily fix that by clicking Control space inside of the object, in the side of the value, and then you can see the parameters that are missing, because we have kind of created them here, but they are not in the value. So we can easily fix that. We can say age 29, name Reinhard. Now it's correct. So this is an object, and we don't necessarily need to put it here. We can also say something like this, person. And then we can just make it here. Type person equals, and then the person is an object, right? The object type. We start with a capital, and I'm also exporting it here because then I can access it in another file if I want to. Okay, so as you can see, these are kind of the most important types, I guess. Am I missing one? Not sure. Just let me know. For example, if I want to say students, I could say the students is an array of persons. And I have to fill that in. So first I start with the square brackets. And now there's no people because students is there's an empty array. But if I want to put some student in there, I can just fill in the name. And I can fill in the age. Well, I don't know. Not a number. Not a number is actually also kind of a primitive in TypeScript. It is a number. The not a number is very confusing, I know, but not a number is kind of a number type, but it said TypeScript is telling you that it cannot really represent this number, basically. So whenever you, for example, do something like this, 8 divided by 0, you get like infinity or something, but I believe that this will compile to not a number. Or whenever you say something like, well, I don't know. Sometimes it happens. So by the way, you can also do math in here. But yeah, that's basic JavaScript, I guess. So I'm not gonna go into that, but you can do 1 plus 1. And times and divisions and modulus and everything. So yeah. So yeah, so this is how you can kind of create an array of different data structures. And the cool thing about TypeScript is what you don't really have in JavaScript is that whenever I make a mistake and I say something like first name, then it gives me a red line, see? Because first name doesn't exist on the person. So this way we can know for sure whether or not these properties exist and what the value is, the type interface of those properties, what they contain. And this makes you, on average, you make way less mistakes, there will be less bugs, you can really quickly refactor code. It's great. It's just much better. So, okay, so this is kind of the basics of TypeScript. I guess I could also tell you something about optional types. For example, if I want to say like first name here, but I don't always have it, but it's always a string, a text, then I can have the question mark here. So that means it's optional. So whenever I don't fill it in, I don't get a red line, but if I fill it in, it can also be done. See, there's no red line. So then you can choose whether or not you want to use it. Yeah, so this is kind of the basics, real fast. So then let's get back to this model here. So as you can see, this is a model just like person, where you have an object with multiple parameters. Instead of these parameters being kind of variables like name, age, and first name, here the object contains more type interfaces. So every parameter is another type interface. For example, here I have the CSV, or like maybe let's go to the default test model. And I also haven't talked about this extents, but that's also really cool. But here in the default test model, you have, for example, an ID, which is kind of a way to identify any instance in any model with a unique identifier. Then you have the name, a description, a markdown, text, for example, and something special that's a Boolean, yes or no. But yeah, this is also very interesting. You can, by the way, I'm going a bit fast because the interface, it looks similar to the type, but it's not completely the same. So the type interface would be declared like this. And interface, you can also do things like extend. With types, you cannot do that. With types, you need to do conjunction types. So you can say, so this is kind of the same. Description, markdown, and special. So as you can see here, we have the type default to and default test model, which extends this thing. But as you can see, there's no extends here. It doesn't work. I can try it. But it doesn't work. It just gives me some red lines. So instead, in types, you need to have an equal sign here, and you need to have the thing attached to it. This is almost the same as this one. This one and this one is almost the same now. The only difference is that, well, there are some differences that I'm not gonna dive into now because it's too advanced. All you need to remember is that you can extend this model, this type interface, with another type interface. If you want to kind of have this type interface and more, then you can extend this type interface and give these other properties on top of it. You can also extend multiple if you want. So now, for example, just put a comma and then add another one. You extend two type interfaces here. Yeah, so that's cool. So, for example, default model type is just extending three other models. It's an any model type, a time types, and a relation type. And it has no other properties. It's just extending those three. So in any model type, it has an ID and any model location. Any model location, it has an operation name. Well, some other things. I'm not gonna explain you what that is. That's just something I'm building right now. Yeah, but as you can see, you can extend as many things as you want and as often as you want. It's great, great to have, because it will save you time and energy. So let's get back to the database, because now you kind of know, like, this is the database, the test models. It's used to create the database. Then you have all these models that are that it comprises, with all these different properties, right? And you kind of know now what it kind of does. Like, it has a data structure that will be enforced, and if it's not correct, there will be red lines. So that's basically the reason you have it. So today, maybe I can start with just creating a new model here, student. So let's make that. Okay. Actually, I made the student here before, but I'm not gonna use that one. Just gonna create a new one. Name. So there's a name, maybe there's an age, and we maybe don't always know it, so that's why I make it optional. Then maybe there's like skills. We can say like skills is an array of strings. And then maybe what else? Country. Okay, so which countries do we have? We have Nepal, because this is another one, and I hope I'm not going too fast, but this is kind of a string, but it will make sure that you don't use all the strings that are out there, but you can only choose between these different strings. So something like this. So whenever we create a student here, they have to have these properties, right? So I think that's enough. So let's see. So let's extend it. Let's not make it a type, but an interface. And let's extend the default or the slug model type. That's some type that I created that gives you some basic properties for the database. As you can see here, it has the any model type, the time types, the relation type, the slug, the name, and the language. A lot of different stuff. You don't really need to know exactly what's in there, but it helps me to easily create a database here, a database model. So as you can see here, I added the student, I added it to the test models, and now I should be able to build this code and start working with it. So I created a little CLI, get. There's a couple commands. There's get, there's push, there's set, and there's update. So let's first use, so get is used to get all the information that's inside of the model. Student, get student. So as you can see, there's nothing in there. Right now it's empty, okay? So now we can just have a look, like how can we add something? So that's done with push. So whenever you want to add a new thing to your database, I'm using this CLI command here to add some value into this database. So I will push the student and I give it this value. It's an object, of course, and it needs this stuff. So it needs, and now I'm typing JSON, by the way. So JSON is JavaScript object notation. It's almost the same as kind of what I'm doing here, but it's slightly different because for example, you always need the quotes here in the parameters. So let's add you, Suyog, and then what's your age? Suyog, still there? I believe it's like 22 or so. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Okay. What else? The student has skills. So skills, what are your skills? Maybe you know some HTML, CSS?
Yeah. JS, React.
Okay, so okay, that's enough, that's enough. And then maybe the country, of course. Country, Nepal. Okay, so let's see if that works. Okay, I get a compiling error. Unfortunately, I believe that the reason for that is that I used a space here, and it doesn't really, this CLI, this is a command line interface, that whenever you do a space, it will kind of break up the command. So you cannot use spaces in here. Still not working. I'm sorry for that. I'm just gonna make skills optional. I'm just gonna make it more simple. It's easy to make a mistake in a CLI like this because it's not TypeScript and you don't see any red lines here. So I'm not gonna write down the skills now. Hopefully this is correct. Yes, okay, there we go. So now the database has the student. And as you can see, there's a students here now, students JSON. And you can see the database in here, in the JSON file. By the way, this is not any MySQL or Postgres. This is just a kind of a tool that I made for you guys to kind of easily study how databases work with the CLI and with the kind of TypeScript and everything. So this is kind of the information that you can find in the students. So whenever, for example, I'm not sure, but I was just working on this. Yeah, I don't know your age, Henrik, was it? I don't remember. So let's see if it works. Yeah, it's there. So as you can see, it immediately went into this file. You see that? So now the content of this student's JSON, it has two entries in JSON format. And the first one is Suyog and the second one is Henrik. It also, by the way, added the date that it was created and the slug. It's like a lowercase version of this. It's actually a kebab case version of the name. It's not deleted yet, so that's 0. And this number, it indicates the amount of milliseconds that happened since the year 1970. So that's a way to represent any date. In any time zone, it's always the same. It's called Unix time, Unix timestamp. So I'm also using that all the time. So yeah, now we have two students in here. So let's see what else we can do. So get student, it will probably give us the list of students here. Yeah, and it's not very easy to read. It goes into 2 lines, so it's a bit ugly, but you can see where it's found. You can see every information about the student. Yeah, so that works. So now maybe we want to update something in the database. So for update, I made this CLI where you first have to give the model name, then you have to provide the instances that you want to update. Wait, so the filter, so I want to say like, I want to update all the students that have the name Suyog. I want to set their age. Maybe it's your birthday tomorrow, I don't know. But by the way, I'm not seeing the age here. Oh, did we leave that out? I'm not sure, it's not there, but let's see if I can just put it there. Yeah, so as you can see now, I just updated the student Suyog with age 22. So now we can find it here. So that's it. For some reason the age didn't work, but this database I'm still working on. There's a lot of bugs. So now what else? We can remove someone. So with remove student, we can just say like, I want to remove this student here with this ID. Yeah, I didn't have this syntax. I have a different syntax here. Just need no column, but just a space. Okay, it says nothing removed. So that didn't work. Maybe just doesn't work because I think the key and the value are correct. So as you can see, it's calling, the CLI is calling some TypeScript code here. So that's, you can easily make a CLI with TypeScript. It's very easy to make a command line. This is everything that I do here. I just get the arguments from the command line that you fill in. I just do some validation, and then I execute a function with the key and the value that I get from the arguments. And then I just return the result. Console table just prints this table for you. So it's very easy. Okay, so it doesn't work. I'm still working on that, but yeah. Anyway, you get the idea. You can just, so that's kind of a CRUD. It's something you also need when you are building your full stack application. You need CRUD. It's kind of the create, read, update, and delete. So these are very important things that you always make. Whenever you make a full stack application, you always want to create a new entry in the database, a new instance. For example, new student or a new company, and you want to read them all out. You want to get a list of all the things in the database. Then you want to update them, and you want to delete them. So yeah, with this database that I'm making here, you get that out of the box. So you get db.get, push, remove, set, and update. So as you can see here, it also gives you some information about what these things do on the right. And yeah, so get just lets you just find all the models that are available. Then you can just get that information. So that's the kind of the read from the CRUD. And then the create, you can do that either with set, where you set the complete value of the database to a new value, or you can use push, where you just give one entry. See? So you can choose which one you need to use for create, and then you also have update, which is just update. And then you have delete, which is called remove in this database. And instead of an object for remove, you need to give a filter function where you select the items that need to be removed, and then it will remove those. So that's kind of how a CRUD works. I'm wondering now if this is something you can easily follow, guys. Can you let me know? How's it going? And maybe you have some questions. Anyone?
From my side, it's clear.
Okay.
I'm understanding what you were just doing here.
Okay.
Yeah, I've learned some database stuff on Python, so I'm following.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm learning something here, and I will see much more about it. I will think much more about it.
Okay, cool, awesome. So I think also if you, just coming back to what we discussed before with the kind of the platforms that you want to build in these 3 months. For example, Miura, you want to build this kind of Airbnb marketplace where people have services or houses and they can find people that need that, right? So let's just think about a data structure that we could use for that, okay? Okay, so
What is the
let's go there. Do you have a name in mind, by the way? Or shall I just call it something else? Well, I will just call it Mioraden. Okay, so let's start with, of course, when you have a platform, you need a user, right? So let's start by creating an interface for the user. And it always, all my database models will extend, in this case, the slug, or I guess the default model type will do, which is just a model to, like I said before, just to provide some more parameters that are always there in every model. So a student, a user, of course, they need a username, an email, maybe a phone. Maybe it's optional, so maybe you don't always need to provide a phone, and maybe you can even choose whether you want to sign up with your email or with your phone.
And then phone should be mandatory, but email would be optional.
Email optional, okay. So then the password, of course, and I think usually, by the way, you should encrypt the passwords that you put in the database for safety, for security. So I will call it encrypted password. So this is kind of the most basic user here. And then what else? So maybe we should start simple and not make it too complex in the beginning, and just start with kind of how does a model look like a platform like Airbnb, like. It has, of course, a listing where you can put your houses. You can put your apartment or your house, and you can just present it on the website. So this listing, maybe it needs, what does it need? A location. Well, I created a location type before, so I'm just going to import that. You don't really need to know what's in there. You can just have a quick look here. It's a recursive model. Oh, I'm not going into that, but it doesn't matter. You need a location. So you need some pictures, maybe, images. Maybe we can use an image array, an array of images. Every image could have like a path or a URL, a width, a height, maybe a base64, which can be like base64 is a different format to represent an image. And then you can have a caption maybe for the image, right? So you have some, well, let's call it pictures. Maybe you have a title of the house or the listing. Maybe you have a description, of course. Yeah. Well, of course, very important, you need a price per night, maybe. And with a price, you need a currency. Let's call it a string right now, but we can also do something like this.
There should be multiple prices. For example, we have a double room and one single room. So
Yeah.
should be price for
So maybe we can just give it a category or type. A type?
yes.
Okay. Listing type. We can just make an enum. This is how you make an enum. You just do like string or another string. So yeah, let's do that. Listing type equals maybe a private room or shared room, or maybe a single bed, or what else? I don't know. I guess something like this. So this is basically the kind of the fundamental part that you need. Of course, you need to present what you have on the website, and you need a user to be able to log in and to purchase something. And then maybe you have a different model for the host. And that can also be a default model type. And the host, of course, it's also a user, but it's kind of a special user that has a lot more capabilities. So that's why I'm building a different model for it. But to kind of, in the database, you always have to refer to the other model. You can either do it like this. That will work. But then you get this in the database, you get a user in the host model. So what we do, we refer to it. So because this is a model type, as you can see here, it always has an ID. So we can refer to the user ID. And we can say that's an ID. And an ID is simply a string. So we refer to this user ID. So then that means that whenever you find a user or a host with a user ID of ABC, it refers to the user with an ID of ABC. So then you know that these two are connected. So the host maybe has listings, listing IDs also, because we're not gonna immediately insert it into the host. We're gonna refer to the other model. So we're gonna say like, you can have multiple IDs in your, a host can have multiple listings and they can be connected to the host. So the listing is also the same way connected to the host, right? So that's why you need a host ID here. So the listing is connected to the host, but the host can have multiple listings. So that's why we make an array. We just simply call it IDs instead of ID. Yeah. The user can also be a host, but it's not always the case. So you can be a host when you have a host ID, or it cannot be. That's why we make it optional. So if you are not a host, you don't have a host ID. What else? So now we have the user. The user can find the listings, and we have the host. The host can create the listings. And yeah, that's kind of the basis, I guess. But I'm probably forgetting a lot of stuff. Let's go to Airbnb and have a look. So yeah, there's of course a lot more information in this place, but it's not something you can build in a day, you know, so it's obvious. But yeah, whenever you make a reservation for your house that you want to book, for example, maybe we can make a model for that, because you need to kind of have a check-in date, a checkout date, how many guests are coming, which room do you want to select. Or actually, we have a listing here, but it doesn't even have multiple rooms per listing, right? You just have a listing type here. It's just one room, or it's maybe a whole house or whatever. But I think the reservation thing is still missing. So I'm going to say check-in is a number. Check-in at, I call it, because by convention I always use at when I want to represent a date, in a point in time. I say at, and the number indicates that it's a Unix timestamp. You can Google that if you want to know exactly what it means. I told it before, but so also you have the checkout at, which is also a number. So this could be a data structure. So what else? A reservation, of course, you have to select a listing that you want to reserve. So we can do that by the listing ID, which is an ID, refers to the listing. Yeah. And then paid, I guess the there's the price, of course, that will be calculated based on the amount of nights that you are going to stay, and then there will be a price, and then you need to pay it. And maybe you don't want to pay everything in one go. You want to pay something in advance and something after. So there could be a number that you paid, and there could be a number that you still need to pay. And maybe this number will also need to connect the currency, because maybe the host is going to change the currency overnight, and then this is not connected to a currency anymore, or like it's not correct anymore. So you need to be careful about that kind of stuff. Sometimes you want to make sure that this data is also in another model to make sure that it's not gonna change everything from history when you change it. So payments that are made and payment or reservations, they will have the currency that the listing had on that moment in time that you did the reservation. And then maybe total price will be the total price that you completely need to pay in this currency. So that's it. I guess check in, check out, and of course a reservation is made by a user, right? So we need a user ID. ID. All right. So that's kind of a basic setup for a database where you can create a booking platform. So this is the backend. This you can connect these models to a database. After that, you can start making endpoints in the server, and then you can build a front end where you are going to fetch those endpoints, and you're going to make a user interface where you can kind of talk with this data. I can send it in the Slack, so you can all have a look later if you want. Is there anything else we can discuss now? See, it's also 5:30.
Yes, real quick. Does Oh My Z Shell work on Windows? I was up 5 hours last night trying to get Z Shell to work in
You
some
mean this one,
format.
right? Oh My
Yes,
ZSH.
yes,
Yeah. Good question. I'm actually not 100% sure, but I read that there was some stuff here for Windows, but I've never tried it. Yeah, you have it?
Yes, I installed it and it perfectly works.
Okay, nice.
Are you running it using Ubuntu, or what is your Linux environment on your Windows?
Ubuntu.
Oh, so are you running Ubuntu on Windows?
Sorry, go ahead.
During the installation process, I was asked to install Ubuntu, so I did.
Is that like a virtual machine or something, or?
Yes.
Ah, okay. So are you also going to use VS Code inside of that virtual machine then?
I've installed also VS Code, but I've not started to
Because
use
I'm
it.
not so sure if this is the best way to do it then. Because if it only works with a virtual machine on Ubuntu, then that would mean you would also need to use VS Code through that virtual machine, right? Otherwise it's not connected to each other, because it's basically a different machine, different operating system and everything. So maybe you can use PowerShell. I don't know if you know it. It's a Windows thing. I think
also have it.
I think it's better than the normal one, but I don't know a lot about it. Yeah, PowerShell.
Yeah, I don't think it has the same kind of flexibility as Z Shell, though.
Yeah, that's true, probably. But and I would totally recommend to. I mean, maybe if your machine is fast enough, you can just work from that virtual machine within Windows. You know.
I'm gonna try because I was trying to even get Ubuntu to work, and I kept on getting an error saying that I'm missing some software, and I checked it out on the Microsoft forums, and it's a regular bug that's happening with Windows 10.
Mm-hmm.
There was hundreds of other people saying they had the same question, so I spent hours last night trying to troubleshoot it and couldn't get it to work. I'm thinking of just powering up my MacBook and just doing everything the way you guys are. Cause
yeah, I would recommend Mac because or Linux because then you would have the most things out of the box, you know. And for programmers, it's easier. Most tools work there more easily.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, cool. So.
Otherwise, if you are using Windows, then you can ask Guilherme. I don't know how to pronounce his name.
Guilherme, yeah, from Brazil.
Yeah, it's a student here also, and he's been using Windows for some time, and he knows how to. He can help you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been following his tips so far. He's been posting some good stuff on the thread.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. So I guess today was a bit more basic than last week. Was it all possible for you guys to follow? Was it on a good level, kind of?
Yeah, it was much better.
Cool. Good to know.
Yeah.
Okay. Then yeah, I guess the next step, of course, you guys need to get practice with Sensible, with the full stack kind of thing. But I'm not sure how to go about this because, like every week, I can of course share some stuff that I just like I did now. But of course, it's not gonna help anything if you don't really try to apply it yourself. So maybe you could try to make a database model now for your, at least the type interfaces for your platform that you want to build, for example, or any hobby project or whatever. And then maybe you can post it in Slack, and we can just shortly have a look at it next week, because that would be a good basis to start with your full stack application, I think. So just think about those types. And yeah, okay. So then yeah, I'm just thinking like what else. Maybe I can show some more, but it's also been 1.5 hours now. So maybe we should just keep it at that. And then we'll continue next week. Yeah. So inputs. So this is, for example, a function here that I create. Just 5 more minutes, maybe.
I'll say encore.
So for example, if we just simply add the user here to the test model, to the test database. Actually, I need to export it, and then I should be able to find it from that file. As you can see, it made the import for me. Now I can use it here. So I can say db test, or what was it? Test db get, or no, push user. So there it is. See? So now I need to give an object here that will give me all the information that we defined here for the user. So we need the ID. We can also define a lot of other stuff, but there's a lot of stuff optional. The only thing that we really need to define here is the username, and maybe that's there, and then the password, which is an encrypted password. And maybe we can say something like, so maybe we can just have a username here, and we have a password here, and then we need to encrypt it, right? So we can just create a function that takes the password, and and then it returns an encrypted password, right? So actually this is input password because it comes from the input. See, so this is the variable, and this is the type interface that this variable will contain when you call the function. So now we need a small function. That's the last thing I'm going to do today. And it takes a password, and then it's going to return an encrypted version of that password. And I don't, at the top of my head, I don't really know how to do that, but there's many algorithms that can do that for you. You can just install a package of that, SHA, I don't know, SHA something, and there's MD5, it's a bit older, but there's a couple of them. You can also, maybe you just go over the password. So you just say like split the password into letters, and then for every letter equals letters. It's going over the letter with a map function, and it takes the letter and it's saying letter char at. So this is of course not a very safe encryption algorithm, because it's basically just getting the char code, which is just a number representing that letter, but at least it's changing the password, right? So now I'm going to return the encrypted password, but this is, as you can see, this is a number array, because for every letter I get the number that works with that. But now I want to return a string, right? So this is an array of the numbers representing those letters, and then the encrypted password is an encrypted password array where you join every letter with X. So return encrypted password. That's it. So now we made a function that takes a password and it returns an encrypted password, which should be a string. Oh, I'm sorry. I was typo. So now you can see that this takes a password which is a string, and it also returns a string that you can see here if you hover over that function. So now if you just insert something like hello, it will be something like 22x, 35x, 66x. For every letter it will say a number plus x. That's how it works. So that's basically a function to encrypt it. Now we have a string here. We can insert that into the user. Actually now I'm getting some weird TypeScript error that I'm gonna figure out after this meeting. But yeah, hope you learned something, and yeah, we'll take it from here next week. Guys, thank you for watching, and if you have any questions, just leave them in the channel. And, have a good day, rest of your day.
Thank you, Vinand. Will this be available? Oh, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. Will this be available on YouTube like the last session? Because I came in late.
Yeah, I
Okay,
recorded
excellent.
it, so I'm gonna upload it later.
Thank you.
Cool. All right. Anything else? Otherwise, have a great rest of your day, and yeah, see you next week.
Yeah, thank you. See you.
Thank you.
Okay.
See you guys.
See you.
Okay, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.